Welcome, and thank you for joining us for today's Dealer On webinar, Website Performance Metrics That Make Sense. My name is Eliana Raggio, and I'll be your moderator today. And today's webinar is being presented by Dealer On. And for anyone who isn't familiar with Dealer On, well, we're an award-winning website development company and digital agency, and we're best known for our search engine optimization, our best-in-class customer service, and our award-winning websites. And I'm very proud to announce that Dealer On was the big winner once again at the recent Digital Dealer 16 Website Excellence Awards. We snagged awards for highest conversion, highest LTV, lowest bounce rate, and for an amazing 6th time in a row overall winner. No other website company even comes close. We're so committed to lead conversion, optimization, and customer service that Dealer On is still the only company in the industry to offer a money-back lead guarantee program. So the question is, does your website company guarantee you a 50% lift in leads or your money back? Well, then maybe you should check us out at dealeron.com. And we have a great show in store for you today. We're very pleased to have Jason Ezell as our presenter today. Jason Ezell is the new VP of Sales for Dealer On, Inc. With almost 25 years of experience in the automotive industry, Ezell first managed dealerships for over 8 years before being invited to join Autotrader.com's first sales team back in 1998. After that, he then started a well-known website company before becoming president of Dadium LLC, the largest aggregator of auto shopper behavior data in the industry 4 years ago. As a member of J.D. Power's Internet Roundtable and a regular Digital Dealer Conference speaker, Jason is well known as an expert in automotive internet for his statistical approach to analyzing user data to better understand how to sell cars on the internet. Returning to his first passion and expertise in dealer websites, Jason Ezell offers one of the deepest and widest knowledge bases on dealer website best practices and strategies, and he can be reached at jezell@dealeron.com. Now, during the presentation, if you have any questions, please use the question feature located on the corner of your screen to submit them. At the end of the presentation, we'll answer those questions of general interest. If we're unable to get to your question live, don't worry, we're going to respond by email later today. Also, don't forget, a link to download a copy of the webinar recording will also be emailed to you later today for your reference, and please feel free to share it with friends and colleagues. And guess what? Dealer On is going to be giving away a fantastic prize today on the webinar. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to be winning a $100 Visa gift card for yourself. You have to be on the live broadcast to win, so just stay tuned for the details after Jason's presentation, and you could be scoring this cool prize today. And at the conclusion of this webinar, you're going to receive a short survey. Please fill it out because we're always looking for quality feedback from our audience. Today we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some really cool Google prizes. So let's get started. Let's learn website performance metrics that make sense. Jason Ezell, I love webinaring with you, and how cool is that? You are actually now officially on the Dealer On team. How the heck are you?
Doing fantastic, and certainly very excited about getting back to my original passion and roots of building websites for dealers, and Dealer On was my choice, and to join because of who they are and what they've become, and I'm very excited to share this knowledge as well as be a part of the team. Thank you.
Oh, me too. And, you know, taking a brief look at the kinds of things that you're going to be talking about today, audience, I can strongly tell you that this is going to be a great webinar with the kind of knowledge base that Jason has from his previous experiences and the way he's going to put this all together for you. You are in for a great show. You're definitely going to be learning some really cool stuff today. Why don't you tell the audience, Jason, what they're going to be learning about today?
Certainly, Eliana. Thanks a lot. What I've learned over these past many years, having built websites first, actually having sold cars first, the last 4 years I've been able to look at the data coming off of multiple websites, all providers, all types, from OEM to cars.coms of the world and the dealership websites, and really trying to understand the shopper's path to purchase and their behavior along that path of purchase, and how we can influence that behavior at any time during the process, especially when they get to our dealership website how do we influence that person in the most ways possible to get that person to submit a lead and give us that opportunity to sell a car. So today I want to look at understanding the metrics behind LTV, lead to visitor ratio, is the one metric that we all judge our website performance by, but there's a little bit more to it than that, and we want to discuss the metrics behind LTV as a number. Also looking at pitfalls in the path to lead submission, very interesting behavioral insights that we can get from shoppers on when and why we lose them from home page to lead submission and how we can plug those holes and keep them in the pipeline. There are many ways, very easy, cheap, and often free ways to tweak and improve performance without spending a dime on your website, regardless of provider, regardless of make or brand. These are small best practices that we've picked up on through consumer behavior that can expand the performance of any website, regardless of provider or dealer. We also want to look at other success metrics past lead to visitor ratio, things that give us insight into consumer behavior, past only measuring leads as that success metric, and then understanding shopper behavior to analyze website structure is what all this will lead to, and I have some good examples on the good, bad, and the ugly of website structure. So we'll start off by looking at what we think is the path to purchase, or a general path to purchase, in that it is a shopping cycle that can start anywhere along this path, whether it be a TV ad that prompts the person to go to the manufacturer site, whether it's a banner ad that prompted them to go to a portal site. There are multiple entry points into this shopping session of a shopper such that there's no one clearly defined path. They can enter at any point, they can exit at any point. But we want to try to track this path and understand the behavior to understand where do we lose them, to whom are we losing them to, and how do we get them back to our dealer website ultimately and get that opportunity and get that lead. This is a lot more what the shopping pattern looks like, much more convoluted, much less clean, we'll say, and this is how it all starts. They see branding typically for a dealership or for their vehicles upstream, whether it be online or offline, on automotive marketplace sites, on your auto traders and your cars, whether it be a TV ad. Most often, this will prompt that shopper to Google the dealership by name and come through your search engines to your home page, which affects your metrics, as we'll see here in a minute. You'll see very few of these people linked directly from these sources to your website, and you can measure inbound traffic to your website from direct links, but you'll see very few from these sources that you pay a lot of money upstream. The reason is these people are filtering through Google as a taxi to get from point A to point B, which is your website. So we want to look closer at how we analyze upstream branding and upstream traffic prior to the Google taxi. Where were those people shopping? What created the awareness of your dealership? And how did they end up at your dealership in the shortest way? So when we look at certain metrics, we often can be misled in positive ways or negative ways in the performance of our website. So if we're simply grading ourselves on traffic, and we're able to see now how our website in blue compares to the average visitors to other dealership websites in that DMA compared to other dealerships in the nation. This particular dealership, we can see, consistently outperforms their DMA when it comes to driving traffic to their website by a large margin. So we can see that they're doing an excellent job in outperforming their market in driving traffic to their website. That's a good metric to have until we start looking at the end result, which is auto leads. So we first look at visitors, we then look at auto leads. There's several metrics in between that we have not analyzed yet to understand why the drop-off. We went from a huge amount of traffic to a very sporadic, very hard to measure, and often very low amount of lead submission based on the traffic that we had to the website. So what we know is we're doing very good at driving traffic, but perhaps we're not driving quality traffic, or we are losing that traffic somewhere in these other 4 metrics before they submit a lead. So we want to be sure to look at not only our initial visitors and our total leads, but where is the fail point within this formula to get more leads out of that amount of traffic. And this is the formula that we like to look at. So we have the total visitors to the website divided by total leads gives us our lead to visitor ratio. The national average currently for all websites is extremely low. We're looking at about a 1.8% lead conversion on dealership websites, and that's looking at over 10,000 dealership websites and taking the average of those lead to visitor ratios. So a very small number and a very hard number to move by itself unless you focus on the metrics that make up lead to visitor. So let's look at total visitors coming to our home page. The first metric we want to closely look at is our bounce rate. How many of these visitors are bouncing or leaving the home page without ever engaging in any sort of shopping activity? The average bounce rate for a dealership website is around 62%. That's a very high number. Now, that's pretty typical of any type of website, but there are ways to minimize that bounce rate and get more of these visitors engaged as active shoppers. And we'll look at that in a minute also. Once we have our active shoppers, people who get past the home page, we want them to engage in searches, physical vehicle searches, and preferably multiple searches per visitor. And we obviously want to get those people all the way to a VDP view, or multiple vehicle detail page views per visitor is a metric we also want to measure. Only when we understand this path to lead submission will we understand why our lead to visitor ratio is what it is, and typically a low number that we can work to improve.
And Jason, we had a quick question about that formula. When you're talking about the leads from the website, are you talking only about leads about vehicles, or do you talk about any lead, like if somebody just used the website to do a contact us, or if somebody used the website for service for some reason? That one came from Jason.
That's an excellent question, Jason. And how we measure leads, and that's a good point to bring up, is these are form submissions through your website that are vehicle related. So if there's a simple request for employment, if there's a request for a certain part, even though those are sales opportunities for the back end of the shop, we're specifically looking at vehicle sales opportunities through form lead submissions from the website.
And that includes credit apps too?
It would include credit app. A credit app is a success metric as far as an intent to buy, and we do look at credit apps in those lead submissions.
Great. Jason, thank you for the question. We also have another follow-up question from Mike. He says, are you referring to total visitors or unique visitors?
We're looking at unique visitors. Now, it's very interesting you bring that up. We want to look at total visitors for our lead to visitor ratio. Within total visitors, we always want to look at our beback rate. As we all know, bebacks are very important at dealerships, both walk-ins, and they are equally important on the internet. The more people, the more times a person visits your website, the more likely they are to submit that lead or end up coming to your dealership for that test drive or purchase. So we do want to look for this formula, look at total visitors, but it's a great metric to measure of your beback rate because you want a high percentage of bebacks. The way to do that is specials of the week, chat of the week. Perhaps you have a weekly chat seminar on your own website that shows how to check your tires, how to change your oil. Anything that invites people back on a weekly basis to your website can increase that beback ratio.
Well, I don't know. Yeah, great. Thank you so much, and great question, Mike. I don't know what happened, but all of a sudden we're getting a ton of questions from the audience specifically about this slide. Let's just do one more, but I'm going to have to hold all the rest of your questions to the end of the presentation. Let's do Andrew's, because it directly relates to this formula. He said, so phone leads are not counted in this measurement?
Not in our not when we are analyzing our website performance. I don't calculate phone leads in website performance metrics except as its own metric, and that is how many phone calls did we receive from the website. A lot of people will go to the website specifically to get the phone number and call the dealership and get the information that they want. That's great. All websites have the phone numbers at the top of the page pretty much these days, plastered up there for everyone to see. So I don't feel like web providers can take credit for increasing phone leads because it is what it is. The phone numbers at the top on every page are going to call when they want to call. Our job as web providers is to maximize the lead submission rate and the throughput of the website itself. Does that make sense?
No, I was wondering how you could have possibly even added in the phone leads too. And then a follow-up was, what about chat leads? And I mean, that's through the website.
It most certainly is. This particular formula, you can incorporate your chat leads into this formula because if they're chat submissions, in other words, it's consumers who are giving information to the dealer through chat are now about 2 to 1, sometimes 3 to 1 email submissions. So chat has now taken the lead over email submissions as a preferred form of contact, not as much as a phone call, but more so than an email. So we do want to count our chat leads into our equation because these are the same visitors that come to our website, only they choose to engage us via chat versus through an email submission. So if it's a vehicle-specific chat of a shopper, that would be considered a vehicle sales opportunity generated by the website.
Okay. Last
Good
thing.
questions.
No, these are all great questions. You should see the ones I didn't ask. Just to be sure, because we had a couple other people like Kevin and Stacy who wrote in, visitors is unique visitors, not total visitors, correct?
This is unique visitors, correct.
Okay.
In order to get a very accurate measurement of leads, we have to use unique visitors for this metric, yes.
Okay. Thank you for answering all of those questions. Audience, I love that you guys are getting so involved with the questions. Please keep them coming. If it directly relates to the slide that we're on, I will interrupt Jason and ask him right then and there. Otherwise, I will be holding all your questions until the very end of the presentation. But please, please ask the questions. You guys are coming up with great questions today. Jason, please continue.
Excellent. And also, please feel free to put questions in the post-webinar survey, and I'll personally answer those questions that we didn't get to on the webinar.
Great idea.
So here's some simple facts that yield huge results. What we know is pretty standard stuff, that when you look at your website metrics from Google Analytics or from your web provider, you'll see that of all your inbound traffic, about 70% of that traffic is coming via a search engine. That's not novel news. About 65% of that 70 is coming from Google, about 3% from Bing, and the rest from your Yahoos and your AOLs. But 70% total of that inbound traffic comes from search engines. However, of that 70%, almost 80% of those people are using the dealership name or a variation of that name as the keyword search. This is 80% of 70%. Is a large number, a huge amount of your traffic that is coming to your dealership by using your name as the keyword. Let me go back one slide. So what this means is the website organic optimization is still your number one focus, the most important thing you can do for your website. Your search engine marketing and your pay-per-click helps fill in the gaps that your website does not fill by using content on the website. But the website itself should be optimized in all ways possible under that dealer name in all the markets around you, because that is how the majority of people are shopping for you, much more so than generic key terms. And that leads us to our first poll question, which will be very interesting on the same subject.
I'm very excited to see how the audience is going to answer this one. Audience, your first poll question is on the screen now. We want to know if you know the answer to this question. What percentage of car shoppers do you believe use the word dealer, dealers, or dealership in their online searches? We want to know what you think. What percentage of car shoppers do you believe use the word dealer, dealers, or dealership when they're searching online? Please select one of the following answers. Do you think it's 22% of car shoppers, 13% of car shoppers, 8% of car shoppers, 3% of car shoppers, or do you think it's less than 1%? And remember, Jason Azell actually knows the answer to this question. This is part of his whole Dadium thing. So I'm pretty excited to see how many of you will get this right. Yes, one of those answers is correct. So once we get a majority of the votes, we'll close the poll and we'll share the results. And I think we're ready. Are you ready, Jason, to see what the audience
I'm very curious.
Okay, let's see what they think. Let's close this poll and share the results. Okay, well, the majority, 35% of today's audience, said that they believe 22% of car shoppers use dealer, dealers, or dealership in their online searches. 18% of today's audience said that it's more like 13% of today's audience said it's more like 18. Oh my gosh, I can't even remember. 18% said it was 13%. 20% of today's audience said it was 8%. 23% of today's audience said it was 3%. Are you getting all this, Jason? And only 5% of today's audience said that they thought it was less than 1%.
Very interesting.
Did I confuse you, Jason? Because I got confused for a second.
I think I understand I got the general idea of the breakdown, which ironically is exactly what I would have answered, and probably weighted in that exact same way until we started looking at the data. And this looks at, again, data from over 9,000 dealership websites and over 30 million active automotive shoppers. Of all those searches, less than 1% of search engine shoppers, automotive shoppers using search engines, less than 1% use the word dealer, dealerships, or dealers.
What?
Now, to me that was amazing, because when we look at advertising and when we look at marketing ourselves, especially through pay-per-click, we always want to be on Ford Dealer Nashville or Ford Dealership Nashville. That's not an inexpensive word to buy into, because most dealers are bidding on those words so that they can be first in those searches. But it does not correlate with consumer behavior. Consumers aren't using the word dealer, dealerships, or dealers in their searches. They're simply looking for Honda Accord Nashville. So make, model, city is the top search for automotive shoppers. The word dealer, dealership, or dealers rarely ever comes up in those searches. And you have to think, these would be people who would be passing through town, perhaps needed service done, transients who are here for a week vacation, who don't know the local dealers in that town. Anyone who lives in this town or your market, they know who you are, or they at least know the major players in town for those makes. So your shoppers, your buyers, are not finding you with these keywords, and that's what was very interesting to me. However, if you look at something converse, where 7% of all keyword searches contain the word price. So they're looking for Honda Accord price in Nashville. Anytime that word price shows up in that search term, those shoppers are low funnel. They're 6 times more likely to submit a lead at the dealership level, and they will submit a lead in about half the time of a normal shopper. So the word price is an excellent word to saturate your website with for keyword, to use for pay-per-click purposes. Anything that has the word price in it is a very high profile or high likelihood shopper.
But so we have this all wrong. We really think that, car shoppers are using dealer, dealership, and dealers. So should we be also changing up what we're doing with PPC? Should we not be buying those kinds of, should we not be spending money on, and just changing that up and just go with make, model, city?
I'll have a list here showing the top keywords used to generate traffic, which we'll look at in a minute, and it's amazing when you see where the generic keywords start coming into play and how little traffic that represents. Now, of course, there are certain markets that do have a large influx of new population, people moving to the city, people coming and going. Those types of markets, it is important to continuously brand yourself and to make sure that you are well known in that market. But in most cases, these words, the dealership scenario, is not a popular search term by shoppers. Now, your PPC company, your SEO company, they can give you reports showing you how many people actually use those terms in their shopping process. But what you really want to know is, of the people who use those terms, what did they do afterwards? Did they continue shopping? Did they submit leads? Were they quality shoppers? And how many were there? So there's two metrics to look at there. A, how many people use these terms? And B, are they really quality shoppers? Did they submit a lead anywhere to a dealership website?
Right.
And these are very, very small.
Huh. Fascinating.
So when we do look at where does our traffic come from, and this is total inbound traffic, when we looked at our first metric of uniques, this is how it typically breaks down. Although what we'll see is the brown piece of the pie, the blue, and the red, this is all search engine traffic. So it will appear in some of your metric tools, this will all appear as search engine traffic, and this represents our 65 or 70% of search engine traffic that we saw on the previous slide. We need to break down the search engine traffic to look at three categories. Organic, which is what our site does by itself, based on how the site is built and the keyword saturation, the linking structure, all those wonderful things. About 6% of your total traffic will come from pay-per-click. About 33% of your total traffic to your website is coming to you from referring websites that host physical inventory, the cars.coms, the car soups, the auto traders, only they're coming to you via Google. So when you look at this number, 33%, you won't see this in your website metrics. You might see somewhere between 2 and 3% of your direct traffic coming from those sources, but you have about a 33% overlap in traffic to your website in people who have been on a cars.com or an auto trader. The problem is they're coming to you via a search engine, and it skews our data. So it's very important to understand what these marketplaces are doing for you upstream, because the Google taxi is affecting the way we measure that. And then, of course, 31% of that traffic is typing in the website address directly. This is our highest quality traffic. This comes from all the branding that we do on and offline, and these are our high lead submitters as well. So this kind of breaks down when we look at search engine traffic versus direct traffic. We still have to break down search engine traffic into our three categories. So for example, this gives you a good idea of what happens when we look at website traffic to this particular dealership and the upstream sources that generated that traffic. So what we know is total traffic to this dealership would have been the total of these unique users. We would know that some of these came from search engines, Google, Yahoo, Bing. What we don't know is the search engine is right here, and so this traffic is broken down by upstream source of people that came to the website via Google, but where their original source of attribution was. So when we start looking at our website traffic, we see now we might have got 4 or 5 leads from AutoTrader last month. However, we had 2,000 people visit our website from AutoTrader. They performed 1,900 sessions, 4,900 inventory views, and we had 28 additional leads through our website of people who came to us from AutoTrader via Google. And Google Analytics will allow you now to do this one-step prior attribution modeling, which allows you to see the step before they type your name into Google. And that's a very important piece if you haven't already structured that, to understand what brought them to Google to drive them to your website, and you'll see these upstream sources are doing you a lot more good than you know.
Okay, just so we're clear, because I do have a couple people who wrote in about this. This slide that you're showing us, this graph, is this a Google Analytic scene?
This is not. Google Analytics will provide something similar when you go into the attribution modeling, which means indirect attribution. Direct attribution are people who come the last link directly to your website. But the indirect attribution are where were they before they used Google to come to your website. So this particular dashboard comes from Dadium. Google Analytics has a dashboard. ROIBot has a dashboard. But the key now is to measure the step before they went to Google and came to your website, and there's 2 or 3 tools that will do that for you.
Okay, so Google Analytics isn't the only one that will do that, but you use
That's
one
correct.
of the, okay, but like Kevin wrote in, he says, won't you see a visitor to our site from AutoTrader via Google using digital attribution in Google Analytics? So that's exactly what you're talking about, right?
Yeah, exactly right. Digital attribution, and thanks for the clarity there. I don't use Google Analytics much, so from the dealer standpoint, you would know better. But yes, there's that attribution modeling that can be done through Google Analytics now. And you have to understand, before, Google wanted all the credit. Obviously, they wanted you to know that 65% of your traffic came from Google. But knowing that the dealership name is the vast majority of those search terms, Google is now opening up the step prior to Google so that we can look at that reporting to see where was the attribution created that made them go to Google and type my name in. That's a very important piece of our metrics. Make sense?
Oh, yeah.
So once we look at the traffic coming to the website, and we can start looking at different ways to measure the quantitative and qualitative the performance of that traffic, also looking at our upstream advertising and not just direct inbound links, I liken this to if you have Kurt Schilling as your pitcher, but you have a catcher who is a rookie and is blind, you are never going to get the full use out of Kurt Schilling, and you paid him $12 million a year to pitch for your baseball team. So the catcher in this case is your dealership website. You can do everything right on the front end, and if your website is not maximized, you will lose those opportunities to a tune of, well, in this case, 63%. So when we look at bounce rates from home pages, the first metric we want to look at and we want to maximize, or in this case minimize, is our homepage bailout rate. The national average is 63%. Whereas if we direct link or deep link a shopper into a search results page, they're half as likely to bounce from that website. So what that's telling us is the homepage, in most cases, if it's not structured properly, is a deterrent to lead submission into vehicle search opportunities. And we know this by looking at driving half the traffic to the homepage, half the traffic to an SRP page, and looking at the bailout difference and seeing that it turns it down to about half. So how do we make our homepage more conducive for shoppers to engage in shopping activities? And if I run through these sites in a very kind of a quick fashion, you'll notice a very distinct similarity in these high-performing websites. And these are websites that we know perform well above the national average. Some are ours, some are not. Multiple providers represented here. But we can see that these all perform at the 6% plus lead-to-visitor ratio, all measured the same, all measuring vehicle sales lead submission opportunities. The similarity that we're seeing here is vehicle representation. Multiple forms of entry points into your inventory, physical inventory. 74% of all the people coming to your homepage are looking for a specific car, price, and pictures. So knowing that, that's 3/4 of our traffic, we need to cater to that traffic most of all. In this site, we notice if I came here looking for a specific car and price and picture, I have multiple ways to find that car. I can roll over my cars here. I can search new, search used. I can click on the banner for that vehicle. I can do my drop-down menus. Still, the most effective form of search are these drop-downs. I have static inventory at the top. I have hot buttons here. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 entry points into inventory. It is not ironic that this site performs at 7 times the national average of 1.8%. This site is pulling down about 9 to 10 to 11% lead-to-visitor ratio. I did not think that a site would perform at that high of a level. I thought the cap was somewhere around 6, 7, 8%. But the more ways we get them into inventory, the more navigation elements we have to display vehicles and get them into inventory within 1 to 2 clicks, the higher that, the lower that bailout rate, and the direct correlation to increased leads. Whereas on the other end of the spectrum, let's look at our lowest performing sites. And what do we notice about these sites in general? There's very little, if any, vehicle display. In this site here, there is not a picture of a vehicle anywhere on the home page. All we're selling is 0000. This is a nonprofit organization of some sort. They're not even right. We're just selling numbers, and even then, everything's free at this point. So, not a home page that draws people into searching for inventory. And even if we go down the line, here we have one static inventory at the top. We have a video and then one Dare to Compare button. This is a home page. This is not going to bring people into your site for shopping purposes. So the first step, always look at your home page as if you were wanting to find a specific vehicle price picture and tell yourself how long it takes you to find that. And there's your first hiccup. And I'll give you a perfect example. Click mapping. Several companies can do this for you. This is a great visual to understand how shoppers interact with your website. Every green dot represents a click from a consumer, and we can see very clearly used cars is by far the most popular section of our website. Therefore, used cars homepage specials is a very, very smart action to take because we know that used cars is the bulk of our traffic. This particular dealer, in wanting to rebuild their website, wanted to get rid of the drop-down navigation on the right-hand side. They felt that it was very ugly, very old school, and wasn't adding anything to the website. And they wanted to make the Price Fighters banner go all the way across the top of the screen, but the banner has no clickability. It's simply their motto and the dealership's mantra. What we notice is specials, second highest click page of your website, of any dealership website, most often is your specials page. 70% of the time, a dealership website has no specials on that page. Huge missed opportunity on putting specials in your website at all times. But let's look at what we did with this website. We made 2 simple changes. We moved the navigation, instead of getting rid of it, we moved it to the left-hand side. This one move, moving the navigation from the right to the left, decreased our homepage bailout rate by over 20%. The navigation, the drop-down should always be left-hand justified. Right-hand navigation will kill the homepage metrics of a website for any type of industry. We also changed the graphic for our trade-in. If you'll notice before, this is the black hole of death when it comes to trade evaluations. Nothing about this is inviting. We can see that maybe 10 or 12 people clicked on it. It looks like gloom and doom when it comes to evaluating my trade, where when we change the graphic, put the control in the shopper's hand, take control of the dealership when you trade in or sell your vehicle, this item that they pay for, click-through increased over 32%. So when we look at the end of the day, on simple changes to the home page to make it more conducive, over a 4-month span, this dealership went from 17 leads to 90 up to a maximum of 128. This was not a dealer-on website. This was from a previous career, but this shows how you can take any website, maximize it for consumer experience, and look at our results. An amazing turnaround in sales or leads, and obviously bottom line sales. Vehicle search, real quickly. We all know best practices. I'm going to show you what is the best of the best practices. This layout has proven to be the most effective. You'll find this on different types of web providers. Obviously, DealerOn has chosen this method. It is very much the Amazon, eBay model in that once I'm in a vehicle search mode and I'm looking at vehicle search criteria, I can still change my search without ever having to go back. So once I'm into new vehicles, I can change vehicles on the left-hand side. I can check my body type. I can look by color. So every time I click, I'm narrowing my search down to not just a vehicle, but the vehicle that I want as a consumer. So this left-hand, keeping them from having to research, in other words, redo a vehicle search, we simply want them to stay within our search module and be able to narrow their search down to the exact vehicle that they want. Pricing philosophy, this has proven to work the best. MSRP on the vehicle, there's an internet price posted, which is a nice discount, but here's the key number. You save $3,900. Consumers aren't going to do the math in their head. What they want to know is what's going in my pocket, not what's coming out of my pocket. So when we show the savings, this does prompt more interaction into vehicle detail page views when we show the actual discount dollar figure. This $4,000 is money in my pocket as opposed to $25,000 coming out. This is a beautiful pricing philosophy. Our call to action is check vehicle availability. And why is that the case? Because the number one question asked on a phone up and the number one question asked on an email is this car still available? They've seen it somewhere else. They saw it on cars.com. They want to know if you still have it in stock. So we made the button read exactly that, check vehicle availability, knowing that's probably the number one answer they have, or question they have. So beautiful search layout, very effective. Most good providers are going to allow this type of a search, but this is much more conducive than our old style of seeing the same stock image regardless of color. We don't have a sale price. We do have a sale price. We don't have an MSRP. So I have no idea what I'm saving. Not only do I have an internet price, but my button is request a sale price, which eludes that the internet price is not the best price. So already we are enforcing that uncertainty and that distrust from the shopper that what is the price? I'm very confused, and this is going to deter any sort of interaction with this car. So when we look at good, bad, and ugly, it's just small tweaks and changes that can make a huge difference in getting that lead versus not. Last step of the equation, our vehicle details page. The most important page of the website. This is where we get our leads. This is what gets us the opportunities. Again, posted price, MSRP, nicely marked through. Here's our posted price. We have beautiful vehicle imagery. This dealer has branded himself very well on the pictures themselves as well as in the text. A little bit too many calls to action for my taste. I like to narrow these down to one or two and force them into a purchase point or a purchase decision or a contact point. But very robust, and everything I need is right here visible on this above the fold on this page. Here we get a little bit less intuitive. We have one stock image. It is not the image of the car because this is a storm blue metallic vehicle. Color is very important to online shoppers. Here we have some stock images, but nothing of the real vehicle, a few interior, even still wrong trim, wrong color, and just a little bit of a company that just does not display our vehicles in the right fashion. Credit score estimate, probably not necessary. Value or trade is okay to have. Then here's our form. What I don't see on here is any sort of dealership branding to know what dealership this even is. On the vehicle details page, there's no reference to an internet manager, no reference to a dealership. Key area for branding that we missed out on. If they print this out to put it in their car and bring with them, we don't have that information on this page. And the ugly. This is about as bad as it gets for no purpose. I don't even have to go through it. Here we don't know what the exterior color is. We don't know the interior color. We have 3 stock photos, no text on the vehicle, and a simple contact us form. We do have the dealership branded. Unfortunately, the guilty here are very exposed, but this is a deterrent to lead submission, and we see as we go down that progression, lead submission on those pages go down as we look at the lower quality. So real quick, I want to sum up and look at, as we have looked at homepage, how to maximize, how to get people into vehicle search, how to keep them in vehicle search, how to maximize the opportunities in the vehicle detail page. We want to now, and we've looked at where traffic comes from to the website. We now want to look at, of that traffic, where do actual leads come from? I put this slide up oftentimes. My poor kids have listened to this for 20 years. And they still ask, Daddy, where do leads come from? Where do leads originate?
Oh, do they?
Well,
Your children ask you that?
that's their bedtime story. I love telling them the story of where automotive leads come from. They really like that one.
I'm sure it puts them right to sleep.
Yeah, within 2 minutes, as most of my audience, hopefully we're keeping them engaged at the age. So we look at lead submission, we look at traffic, but we really want to know where are we getting our leads. And when we look at this, obviously direct traffic, people who type in your website address, they've seen the website address, they have bookmarked it, they have linked from it through an email that you put out. That still represents about half of all your lead submissions are people who type in that URL. There's no better way than to brand yourself as you've always done for 60 years. Organic and search engine marketing represents 22% of our leads. And remember when we looked at that Google traffic of the 33% that was actually coming through Google, but they were originating from your automotive marketplaces? Referring websites, Auto Traders, Cars, Auto Soups, are representing 25% of your lead volume. Only those leads look like they came to you from Google. That's why the upstream attribution modeling is so important, because those referring sites are representing 25% of your leads, and you don't know it because they appear to come from Google. So using that attribution modeling is very important to get companies, reporting tools, or your Google people to help you tweak those reports so that you can get this type of information. Oh, next poll question.
Wow, is it time for another poll question already? All right, audience, if you can, please look at your screen and answer this question. Of all the traffic sources to your website, which one do you think consistently, that's the keyword, consistently converts at the highest percentage? Please select one of the following answers. Is it people who type in your website URL directly? Do you believe it's organic search traffic? Do you think pay-per-click gives you the highest percentage? Is it automotive marketplaces like Cars.com and Auto Trader? Or is it inbound traffic from your OEM? Please let us know. Please get your votes in. Once we get a majority of those votes, we will close this poll and share the results. We'll see if they're paying attention to you, Jason.
Well, there's no telling what kind of responses we'll get, because I'm sure everyone has varying degrees of experience and success with these different types of leads. But I imagine some of them will be pretty obvious.
And we really want to know what's happening at their dealership, correct?
That's correct. Which leads me back to a point that there is not one strategy that works for all. There is a marketing mix that is specific to your market and your dealership, and that often or rarely is the same as another dealer. So that confuses matters more. But you're right. I'm curious as to what these types of answers are.
All right, audience, we're going to close this poll and share the results right now. Oh, we just got some more votes in. I love that. All right, here we go. All right, well, 66% of today's audience said it was people who type in the website URL directly. 20% of today's audience believe that it's organic search traffic. Very telling. No one believes that pay-per-click offers them consistent conversions at the highest percentage. Very interesting. 10% of today's audience said that they think it's the automotive marketplaces like Cars.com and Auto Trader, and only 5% thought it was inbound traffic from OEMs. What's the right answer, Jason?
Interesting. Some of those were very intuitive. The OEM leads obviously are probably not your highest quality anymore. Pay-per-click leads, they're just too few and far between. I'll get back to that point in a minute. But when we look at conversions of lead source types AMP is the new term for automotive marketplace. They don't like the term portal anymore, and I don't understand that, but an automotive marketplace is a website that hosts and displays your physical vehicle inventory. That traffic comes to you typically via Google, as we saw earlier. But when that traffic hits your website, they convert at an average of 10%. They range from 7.8 to 12.5. The very close second is the dealership website. But as we've noticed, when we looked at the word consistently, what lead sources consistently perform at the highest is your automotive marketplace people who've been to Cars and Auto Trader. You can't afford to not be in that game. I know you hate to hear that. I don't endorse either one. I don't get paid by either one. But the statistics tell us you cannot beat them at their own game. You must join them, and that is put your vehicles where the people are, as opposed to trying to get yourself in front of those people on a search engine by going to those sites. They consistently convert at 7.8 to 12.5%. The dealership website leads are a very close second, but you can see our average of 6.85% closing percentage. Lead conversion percentage, but the range 1.6 to 12.5. There are so many variances of dealership websites that you cannot depend on that being your highest source. In some cases it is. In some cases it is the lowest source, and it all comes back to the metrics and the best practices we looked at earlier. Organic, always very consistent, 5.7% average lead conversion rate, range of 2.4 to 9%. Your pay-per-click will give you the lowest form of lead submission. Now let me explain this. I'm not down on pay-per-click. I see pay-per-click being misused or mismanaged in too many dealerships by trying to do it themselves, or perhaps using a philosophy of trying to dominate search engines and throwing thousands of dollars at it. That to me is a losing proposition. So based on this amount of traffic, pay-per-click has a very strategic place in our world, and that is to promote things that our website is not doing a good job promoting. New vehicle launches, special sales, service and parts, all the things that our website does not have enough content for is what we want to pay-per-click, and there's a very strategic way of doing that these pay-per-click companies can help you with. It is a science, not an art, and I always like to make that point clear. It is a numeric science, a pay-per-click, not a guesswork of what people are going to be typing in. So this does take into account a lot of dealers who are having a very poor strategy or rough time figuring out their pay-per-click strategy. The main point here is put your cars where the people are, put your website out there in front of people as much as possible, and be sure the website optimizes. That's the bulk of your traffic, 90%. So to wrap this all up, I want to show what looks like the ugliest slide is probably our most important one. This is what your metrics will look like, at least for us geeks. This is the most beautiful slide in the world. So when we look at our websites and we start analyzing those metrics that we have looked at throughout the webinar, we look at now this in a different way. This particular dealer group, all these dealerships, individual lines or dealerships within a very large dealer group, and they felt like that these were their low performers and that these were their high performers, and they wanted to figure out how we get these sites performing at these standards. Well, it turns out that philosophy was exactly reversed. This is their highest performing website, even though it has the lowest traffic, and let's look at why. The metrics consistently increase. You have 4,200 unique visitors. You have almost twice as many vehicle searches as you do unique visitors. This is an excellent metric. You have 2-to-1 searches to visitors. Of those searches, 67,000 inventory views off of 7,800 searches, a total page views of 84,000, but of those 84,000 page views, 67,000 were inventory views, which means they're not getting lost in the website. There's not too many pages in front of them to get to the car that they want. This site is all about VDPs and selling cars. And you can see they got 300 leads off of 4,200 visitors. The site right above them, an equally good performer, But when I'm looking at lead-to-visitor ratio and trying to figure out why this dealership has twice the lead-to-visitor ratio that this one does, because I have twice the visitors and the same amount of leads, here's my pitfall. We know that they're getting good traffic. We know that they're getting past the home page. Again, we've doubled our searches to unique shoppers. That's what that's what you want to see. But look at my inventory views. Very, very small compared to my searches. Only 10,000 more inventory views than there were searches out of 148,000 page views. They're getting lost in the website. There's way too many ancillary pages in the website, and too few of these people are actually getting to inventory and inventory views. So we have the same amount of leads out of twice the traffic. Do you see how when we look at the formula behind lead to visitor, we can see exactly pinpoint where our pitfall is? Now let's look at the high-performing dealers. 13,000 visitors is awesome. However, half of them bailed out. Here's our problem. The first step of the metric is our bailout rate. The problem has to be our homepage. We have 108,000 inventory views, which is excellent, out of 179,000 page views, which is good. We have fewer leads off of 13,000 visitors because our homepage is broken. I can tell just by looking at these numbers where the fail point is, where the break point is, and where we need to focus attention on the website to maximize this output. Does this make sense?
It makes sense to me. Audience, do you have a question? Write it on in. This is fascinating. It's one of the things I love about doing a webinar with you, Jason. It's, we're car people. We love the numbers. We love the numbers, and you bring us the numbers and you explain them to us so that we are not misinterpreting them. I can see how this was misinterpreted. I would have picked the 13,000 one as one of the highest performing websites too, but now that you've explained it, I see where my mistake is.
Exactly, and that's, having looked at the statistical part of this business, and what the beauty of the internet gives us is data, massive amounts of data. The problem is, how do we digest that in bite-sized chunks that allow us to make better business decisions? Here's 5 columns. Out of the 40,000 columns of data you might get on a daily basis, here's the 5 we focus on when we're looking at website performance to find our pitfall and our fail point. If you just look at lead to visitor ratio, you're going to miss the opportunity to fix. This dealer, none of these dealers felt like they were doing anything wrong. 300 leads, 288 leads in a month is great. If we could double that, would that be greater? It certainly would, and we can do that just by maximizing the homepage. So yes, analyzing the numbers, although I'm a big geek anyway and love doing it, it can give us the answers that we want and direct us to the places where we can focus attention to maximize output.
Okay, Michael wrote in, he says he's sorry he missed what the 5th column was. What was that? And I believe that was the number of leads in that month. Is that right?
These are our 5 metrics. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. So we want to look at unique users, searches, inventory views, and page views. Within here, we also want to look at how many searches per visitor. You want your unique users to perform at least 2 vehicle searches, if not 3 or 4. And you want to look at inventory views per shopper. So once you have these 5 metrics, it's simple division to get your searches per unique and your inventory views per unique. And you want those numbers to double across the board. Here we have 4,000 visitors. We have 2-to-1 searches. We have 8-to-1 inventory views to searches, and very few ancillary pages being lost in. So this is a beautiful training a graph here as far as the metrics that you want to see. I can divide this and get my searches per visitor and my inventory views per visitor. Good question.
He wrote in, great, thanks. I was waiting to see if anyone else would write in a question. Go ahead.
Well, either I've confused everyone, or I've answered everyone's questions that they've always had.
Don't you worry. We got plenty of questions from the audience on other stuff, all right, which we are going to get to. Yeah, you know what? We do have a few questions. Oh, geez, we have a lot of questions that just came in about that. I'll tell you what. Let's go through the takeaways, and then we'll back it up a little bit. How's that?
Exactly. This might help. So what we've learned at is analyze homepage functionality to minimize bad. This is very important to do. Don't just look at your homepage every day to see if you like it. It has to be conducive for shoppers, and not just a shopper, any type of shopper, regardless of how they want to search for vehicles. You should give them that opportunity. Look for traffic conversions at each step of the process, not just your input and output, but your throughput. Minimize space between shoppers and vehicles. As we saw in that last graphic, 158,000 page views, 37,000 of which were inventory. There's too much space. Space is where people get lost, as in lost in space. I got to tie that together. So we don't want them lost in space. We want them in front of a vehicle as quickly as possible. So minimize that extra space out there where they're getting lost. Look for other success metrics past LTV. One thing I wanted to point out we haven't discussed, you always want to look at maps and directions page views. You can see that from your web metrics. You can see it from Google Analytics. When you see a spike in maps and directions page views, you will see a spike in floor traffic that weekend. It is a direct correlation. It is almost measurable. If you want to know what the weekend's going to be like, look at your maps and directions clicks over the week prior, and that will more than likely give you an insight into what your weekend traffic will be like. We also want to look at chat clicks. That's a very good success metric. If people come to your homepage and go directly to your maps and directions page, they found what they want. They know what they want. They didn't have to search your site. They just want to get there. So those are very important metrics. And then obviously analyze traffic based on quality and not quantity. Don't keep throwing money at trying to get more and more traffic, because as we see, oftentimes you will have little, if no, incremental result increase in leads, unless the website is conducive for conversion.
Thank you so much, Jason. That was an eye-opener. Okay, I have so many great questions for you, Jason, so I need you to stick around. Audience, we're going to get to all of your questions, so hopefully you'll stick around real quick. We're going to take a very quick detour and give away a prize real fast. So if you were here at the very beginning of the webinar, then you heard me announce that Dealeron is going to be giving away a fantastic prize today. One of you lucky webinar attendees is going to win a $100 Visa gift card for yourself. All you have to do is answer a simple question about the presentation you just saw. And we still have questions coming in. Okay, Jason, go to the next slide. And so, audience, I want you to get ready, get to your keyboards, get your fingers all, bendy and crack your knuckles and do whatever you have to. Get ready, because here comes your question. And good luck, everyone. The question is, earlier in the presentation, Jason told us what the number one most important aspect of a dealership website homepage was. What was it? What is the number one most important aspect of a dealership website homepage? And once I get a correct answer, oh my gosh, so many people are writing in. I wish I was quicker at this. I'm sorry. I'm going to get to this right now. The correct answer is
I can only imagine what's coming across. I don't see them all.
I'm trying to be as specific as you told me to be. So, unfortunately, people were putting one word down, but it really is like a 2 or a 3 word answer. So I'm trying to find the right answer. Unless you just want me to take the first one that came across, Jason. Are we going for accuracy?
If you feel like it's on the topic of what that most important piece is, then that's what we're looking for.
It is? All right. Okay, then we're going to go with the very first person who answered it correctly. Who answered the question on kind of the same topic. The winner is Bruce Hartz, and he wrote down inventory, and he was the very first one to write that down. But what we were looking for was multiple ways to get to inventory search. I was looking for inventory search, inventory access, inventory entry points, which came in later, but the very first person to write in inventory was Bruce Hartz. So Bruce, you are our winner today. Congratulations. Bruce, if you wouldn't mind, please write on in and let me know what dealership you're from. And hey, while you're at it, why don't you write on in with a mailing address as well. And of course, we want to say congratulations to Bruce Hartz from your friends at Dealer On. You are a winner of a $100 Visa gift card. Congratulations. And audience, thank you so much for playing along. We really, really enjoyed that. Okay, Jason, I hope you're ready because we have some amazing, amazing questions for you.
Excellent.
What's this? Where are you, Jason? Show me your picture. Turn on your camera. Do something. Where are you? There you are. Okay, Jason, if you want to turn on your webcam, you're more than welcome to. Our first question comes from Chuck. And Chuck said he wanted to confirm, did you say that the average bounce rate was 62%?
Yes, and that is looking at 6 months of data from over 9,000 automotive dealership manufacturer websites, new car manufacturer dealership websites. And we looked at 32 million shoppers each month over the course of that 6 months. And the average bounce rate of those websites was 62%. Now, let me preface that by saying, and excuse my French here, that included a lot of really crappy websites. So we know that there's a lot of OEM mandate websites in there. We know that there's some one-off mom-and-pop websites in there. So when we look at national averages, they're always going to be either very high or very low, and they're not going to really apply to most people in that bell curve who are going to be at one end or the other. So it's a good question, but yes, the average bounce rate is 62%. A decent bounce rate that you want to look at, if we take out the low performers, we're still looking at about a 45 or 48% bounce rate. I'd like to see that around 30 or 40, below 40%, somewhere in the mid-30s.
So would I. All right. Chuck, thank you for the great question. Next question that came from James. He says, overall, hasn't internet leads dropped over the past years? More people just get the info and then just walk into the dealership? Jason, do you have any data to back that statement up?
I most certainly do, and you're exactly right. And that's why we have to stop measuring leads or looking at leads as a success metric, especially when we're grading vendors who supply leads, whether it's our automotive portals, whether it's whoever it is. Email form submissions has gone down over 60% since 2008. So back in 2006, the average lead submission rate on a dealership website was just under 4%. 4 years later, it was just under 3%. Today, it's just under 2%. So you're exactly right in that email form lead submissions are going down. It is still a way to measure the performance of a website when we look at throughput as leads as being the ultimate end result. But you're right. We have to look at other metrics, and we have to look at other ways to measure. Mainly, let's keep a close eye on chat, because chat is now surpassing and growing in lead submission, whereas email form lead submissions continue to go down.
Huh. Interesting. Great question, James. Okay, next question comes to you from Brad. Brad wants to know, what is the best data to use for optimizing your organic search besides the dealership name? Is it dealer customer sales location, vehicle sales population by zip code? He wants to know what the best data is to use for optimizing your organic search.
That's a great question, and I think what I'll do is, if we can get it, I'll send him 2 slides that I have specifically on another presentation, and what it shows you the top 10 most used organic terms that drove traffic to your website. Of the top 10 most used terms, in other words, of the top 10 terms that drove the highest amount of traffic, 6 of those top 10 are your dealership name or some version of. Not until we got to number 9 did we have our first long-tail vehicle search that produced 5 visitors in 1 lead. So we just don't see those long-tail vehicle searches happening as much as we used to, but I'd be glad to send over a graph that shows exactly what keywords generate not only the highest amount of traffic, but the highest amount of leads, and that's what we really want to look at. Of the traffic I got from that keyword, did anyone send me a lead, or were they just looky-loos? That might not directly answer the question, but I will send a follow-up graph that can do that.
Well, unfortunately, you've opened the floodgates. Now everyone wants those slides. So, so we'll have to figure out how we can do that. All right, Jason?
What we'll do is, I think, Eliana, I'll probably add those into this presentation before you post it online, and that way they can, if they want to grab this presentation, those 2 slides will be in there.
All right, audience, so if you want them, then you need to email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. Oh, gosh, everyone's writing to me now. Write to me at eliana@dealeron.com, and I will send you a PDF version of his slide deck with those 2 extra slides in there. Is that right, Jason?
That's correct.
All right, there you go, audience. All right, we're going to make everyone happy today. All right, next question comes to you from Kate. Kate wrote in, isn't it true that people use Google as a glorified yellow or white pages? Having said that, isn't it typical practice to search by the dealer name after doing their vehicle research? That's if they know that your dealership exists and that they believe that your dealership has the car, I believe. But Jason, what do you have to say about Kate's comments?
It's exactly right. And what we see is, again, going back to the statistics we looked at, is almost 80% of your searches in traffic is using your name as that key term. And I'll tell you what is the most likely path, or the highest traveled path, is they'll go to a cars.com, they'll search for a vehicle in their area, they find the car that they want, it's posted right there on the site what dealer that car sits on. Consumers have been trained to not submit leads through third-party websites because, A, they get inundated with emails from 7 or 8 different dealers, or B, they don't get any response at all. So we have trained the consumers that submitting leads through third parties is a risky proposition, one that they typically are less likely to do. So we want those, what they do is they find the car, they find the dealer, they immediately go from cars.com to Google the dealer by name, come to that website, and most often in the study that we looked at, they looked at the same car on your site that they looked at cars.com an hour ago, a day ago, or a week ago. So we know there's that direct correlation between your cars being bait out in the out on the web and you hooking people with those cars, reeling them into your website, and then continuing their searching, but the lead submission of the contact is being done through your website and not through the third parties. So it's very important point to bring up that yes, your dealer name is obviously going to be the most way people find you versus keyword. So the more places you have that attached to your physical inventory, that's your high-quality traffic with extremely high lead conversion ratios.
I love it. All right, Kate, thank you so much for the great question. Our next question, Jason, comes from Kevin. And this is when we did that poll question about dealers who thought that online searches were done by car shoppers using the words dealer, dealers, and dealership. And Kevin wanted to know, so people searching the word dealer are likely higher in the funnel and less likely to convert? Or do we not know that yet?
It's very right. If they're looking at dealer, if the word dealer isn't in search, in tracking those people, and what we saw was they were very early funnel. In fact, we did not see many of those people trickle down the funnel very quickly at all. So it was a very preliminary search, and most often, if they are looking for Honda dealer Nashville, those actually turn into service opportunities. They're trying to find a local dealership that can fix something that went wrong with their car as they were traveling through or as they were here temporarily. So when we do see a search like that, typically those are service opportunities.
Thank you so much. And yeah, it's still surprising to me that so very few use those words. But I guess if I were shopping for a car, yeah, I probably wouldn't use those words either. So that makes sense, actually.
It really does. And when I use the web as a consumer, which a lot of us don't do, especially for cars, we realize that that's the dealers is not a term we're looking for. As a consumer, I'm looking for a Honda Accord in Nashville. It might not be at a dealership. It might be at a local car lot, or it could be at a CarMax. So the word dealership is not always going to bring up the results that they want. They want to know where that car is. So it's very interesting when you think logically about it. The word dealer, dealerships, or dealers doesn't get them any closer to what they want unless they're trying to find a place to take their car to have it serviced.
Interesting. Okay, let's get to this one. This one comes in from David, and this question was sent in about the time you were talking about the inventory VDP pages, all right? And you were talking about how, they were using stock photos and it wasn't even the right color of the car that was, being advertised on the VDP. So David wrote in, do you think that it's better to have a photo booth, where you actually take pictures of the actual car? Or is it enough to get a stock photo that actually matches the color, the exterior color and the interior color and all the model and trim and everything for that car and just use the stock photos?
There was a recent white paper that's been published by Evox, and you might want to Google this and get your hands on that white paper. And it studied shopper interaction and the impact of vehicle imagery on their shopping session. There is no better substitute than actual photographs, even on new cars, actual photographs of that vehicle interior and exterior, and I'll tell you why. I've actually, during my the onset of my midlife crisis, I'm looking for a fast muscle car that I can legitimately call a four-seater so I can get my kids in the back. So I love these Dodge Challengers. I was a big old car nut. And to have a 5.7 Hemi in a big sedan that holds 4 people is a very cool thing for me. Well, here's the problem. There are 28 versions of this Challenger. They have different stickers. They have different graphics. They have hood scoops, no hood scoops. If I'm looking at stock imagery, I can't tell by reading the packages on that car what that car is going to look like. I want the black one with the flat black stripes going down the side. Well, the stock images don't do that for me, much like Harley-Davidson F-150s, much like SRTs, SRT8s. You don't get that mental image of that vehicle unless it's an actual photo. And here's the whole key, much like training salespeople on the lot. You do not sell that person a car unless you test drive them in that car that they want. Not one like it, but the car they want to drive home in. The same philosophy applies true online. I'm looking at a stock photo, I'm looking at a car. If I'm looking at actual photos, I'm looking at my new car.
I am totally with you on that, Jason. I completely agree. Okay, and David wrote in, great answer. Thank you very much. All right, so let's move on to the next question. We still have a number of questions to get to. Our next one comes in from Matt. And he sent this question in when you were showing that home page with all the green dots all over it?
Yes, click mapping.
Yes. He said, what is the site overlay tool that shows where users click? So what's it called?
Google actually has heat mapping. There's also another site called, egg something. I'll have to send that out as well. But if you will Google website click mapping or website heat mapping,
somebody's saying it's Crazy Egg?
Crazy Egg, exactly right.
Ah, okay. That's a funny name. So it's heat mapping or Crazy Egg?
Heat mapping or click mapping, and Crazy Egg does a good job. Google has a decent one. Dadium obviously does click mapping with analysis. So you can Google that, but you can use one of those tools. Very eye-opening when you see how consumers interact with your website, and that's the only way is through click mapping. It's very eye-opening.
It is really eye-opening. Matt, I'm interested to find out.
Let me expand real quickly on the question about inventory. This is an interesting fact, too. We notice on most sites we have very few interior images. 52% of all new vehicles sold in America today, the decision maker is a female. Whether she's there during the purchase decision or not, that is a decision maker. The number one concern among female buyers for a new vehicle purchase, it used to be safety, but now all cars are basically, they explode into a pillow if you hit anything. Safety's not as big of a concern. The female, their number one concern is interior usability, meaning do the seats move forward and backwards, how much storage, cup holders. If you're not adequately representing the interior of that vehicle and the storage components and the usability of that interior, you are not catering to over half of your actual online shoppers.
Agreed.
Actual half of your buyers, and that is the female shopping population.
That's so funny that you say that, because I remember a couple weeks ago when Jason Rice was on, and he was talking about the mistakes that a lot of dealers were doing on their inventory VDP pages with their photos. And he said, you know, they have 20 photos of the exterior, which, hey, we've all seen those cars on the road. We know what the cars look like from the outside, but, you know, we have like 3 photos of the interior, and then that's it. And so, and he said most of the description is about stuff that's on the inside, so why not give them more of those pictures? That's what they want. So give them one exterior shot and then put a bunch of interior shots. Don't make them wait to get to the 26th photo before you show them interior shots. So
that's right. And Jason's a brilliant guy. He has hands-on experience in that. He knows exactly what that does, and he's exactly right that the interior. There's so many different interior colors, leather colors. You can't understand what a brick red interior is until you see it, and either you love it or you hate it. And so yes, that goes back to vehicle imagery is. Color these days, used to in selling cars, if my salesperson came up and said, yeah, we're good, they love everything except they want the green one. My point to them, as most general managers is, go sell them what's on the lot. They'll take the black one if we discount it more. Well, now that consumers can get pretty much anything they want, they're holding on to that color. If they want the white one, they're going to hold out for the white one. So displaying those cars in the actual color and being able to see that car is very, very important, because we are not able to switch people on colors like we used to in the old days, because they'll get the color that they want.
Well, and we hope that they understand, too, that they can get any color that they want, that if it's not on the lot, hey, don't worry, we can still get that color for you, you know?
Exactly. And is it the tuxedo black metallic, or is it the jet black pearl?
Oh, geez.
You want to be able to see the differences in the blacks and the blues and the reds.
I absolutely agree. Okay, thank you so much for that great question, Matt. You opened up a whole can of worms over there, didn't you? Okay, let's get to this next question from Michael. Now, Michael wrote in a very interesting question. This was the slide that you had showing where right after the second poll question, where the different traffic was coming from and which one was most consistently effective. Do you remember that slide, Jason?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
So Michael wanted to know, where would retargeting and Facebook ads fall into place in that slide of yours? You didn't have them listed on there, but he wanted to know where retargeting and Facebook ads would have fallen into place.
I tell you, that's an excellent question, and I wish I had a better answer for you. Retargeting, when you start looking at banner advertisement, Facebook advertisement, it's very hard to track the unbroken attribution of those sources. In other words, if someone clicks on the banner and comes directly to your website, you can track that inbound link. If they saw your banner and then Googled you by name, we will never know that that banner influenced that behavior. So I wish I had a better answer for you. I did not work them into those equations because I didn't have enough data, definitive data, to show what that does, because it's such a detached and indirect effect. I wish I had a better answer for you.
Michael, who knows, maybe those stats will be coming out soon, but we're going to try and get those in there. I mean, we do know retargeting works, right, Jason?
We do know retargeting works, and we are looking at VBACs, retargeting people. We are now able to recognize those people who have been retargeted as they come back to the website, and we're starting to measure their behavior to see, are they more engaged on a third visit versus a second visit, and was this retargeting message more effective than this retargeting message? So we are measuring that now because retargeting is relatively new, but becoming very effective. There's not a lot of historical data, but we're very interested to see what retargeting works and what is pulling people back in for a second and third visit.
Agreed. And by the way, Michael, one of our other attendees, he wrote back in, the scariest way to find out what your banners and retargeting are doing for you are to cut them off and then see what happens. So you might not want to do that. But anyway, Michael said, no problem. I may create directional retargeting messages now that the prospects are viewing ads. Oh, I like that. All right. Yeah, David said he wasn't suggesting that. All right. Thank you so much, Michael. I hope that helps you out, and good luck, of course. Okay, we have a handful of questions left. And these all have to do with that second to the last slide that you had, Jason, showing the that one dealer group and all their different websites and all of the, yeah, that one. All right. All right, so first question was from Ron. He said, can you find all 5 of these metrics in Google Analytics or with a combination with your website provider?
Yes. The website provider, most website providers should be giving you this exact information in some sort of report or dashboard format. These are basic website metrics. They can be pulled off of any metrics tool. It's just a matter of putting them into a report or format like this where you can read them. But yes, Google Analytics gives you these exact numbers. Your website provider is probably the most exact as far as these specific numbers because they're hosting the website. They have those traffic numbers, and they're able to measure leads much more specifically than Google Analytics is. So unfortunately, it might be something where this is a running spreadsheet. If you don't have a tool that can produce this exact report, I know Dadian can help you with that as well. Dealer On is building out the same structure for our reporting. But this is a simple spreadsheet where you can just pop these numbers in from your website provider and or Google Analytics and just come up with these 5 metrics. The auto leads is the one number that you're really you're going to want to get from your web provider. And then it's a matter of what do you consider a lead. You have to weed out your employment apps, you have to weed out your service requests, and really get it down to automotive sales opportunities if you want to get precise.
Gotcha, gotcha. And I want to acknowledge, of course, too, that Frank also wrote in kind of the same question. He said, how do we see those stats? So, I mean, Google Analytics, website provider, they're readily available. These aren't stats that are, you know, pie in the sky, like they're going to be very difficult to get. These are easy stats to get a hold of, correct?
They are, and that's why I wanted to use them, because these should be standard with your web provider. These are standard metrics we've always used. It's just simply recording every IP that comes to that website and what they do. And so I wanted to use metrics that I know all dealers can get their hands on, but structure them in a way that makes a formula where you can see your fail points. So yes, you should have all these metrics. They might not all be in the same place, but a simple consolidation of these 5 pieces will give us the formula to watch.
Gotcha. Okay, Ron already wrote in, thank you. So thank you for the great question, Ron. We're going to get to our last 3 questions right now. David wrote in, is there a specific amount of searches that you can expect from visitors? So let's just use some round numbers. Let's say you got 5,000 unique visitors in a month. What number would you like to see in searches? I think you said you want them to do at least 2 searches or 3 searches or more. Is that right?
That's correct. At least 2 searches per unique user, which means they have engaged past just one vehicle search. Oftentimes, one vehicle search is certainly okay because they're pretty narrowed down to what they want. But if they're very serious, we typically see about 2 vehicle searches, often on the same vehicle, just perhaps different trim levels or different engine types. So the ultimate is to have, or the least you want is 2 searches per unique user. If we see 3, 4, or 5, for example, CarMax, that website averages 9 searches per visitor.
What?
The difference in that is
oh my gosh,
people are using CarMax as if it were a Cars.com. Cars.com produces multiple searches per visitor, but that's because they're more their earlier funnel. CarMax is a unique deal where even though they sell cars, people are using that to look for cars, but they're not submitting leads and they're not buying from CarMax.
Right.
Just an interesting caveat.
So on this graph, the one that's the last green one, so it had 9,600 unique users. You see the searches are almost half that. So that is when you believe that there's something wrong with the homepage.
There is either something wrong with the homepage itself or the quality, the type of traffic that we're driving to the website. And what we see is when we see this type of bailout rate, typically what we know is these dealers are putting a lot of their budget towards pay-per-click and search engine marketing and not using their money towards automotive marketplaces and upstream branding. Typically, that's what this number means, is a lack of quality of traffic where these dealers are going after sheer bulk of traffic, hoping that the more traffic I get, the more leads I'll get. Well, what we've seen is, specifically with pay-per-click, you can triple your budget. There was one of these dealers was in Texas and went from $10,000 a month in pay-per-click to $30,000, and with no incremental increase in leads at all. The traffic spiked tremendously, but all the metrics went down because the traffic was, as he got deeper and deeper into pay-per-click terms, they were less and less relative and less effective, and so 3/4 of that money went to waste. There is a distinct ceiling in each market to the pay-per-click dollars that you can spend that will give you an ROI. And it caps out in every market. It caps out to where if you double or triple, you'll get no incremental increase. Again, the pay-per-click only targets a very small percent of your population, and that is a population of people who don't know you exist at all by name. So you have to understand that's only ever going to appeal to 4, 5, 6% of your population.
Interesting.
Did that answer the question?
No, you're great at this. I mean, you're right. This looks like a boring slide to me, but now that you've explained how the numbers work, I'm like so fascinated by it.
So at least by looking at this number, I know where to focus. Either our homepage is not conducive, or I would start looking at inbound traffic. And my guess is I would see a lot of pay-per-click traffic, a lot of marketing traffic, a lot of search engine traffic, and my guess is they probably canceled Cars and Auto Trader because I only got 4 leads last month, and I put all that money towards search engine marketing. It's a very typical statement we hear, and these are the numbers we see. You won't notice that effect until 2 or 3 months later because what we looked at earlier, that indirect traffic. You might cancel Auto Trader because you only got 8 leads, but you're going to lose 32% of your traffic to your website, and that's going to hurt.
That is going to hurt. Okay, David, great question. Now, we're going to get to the crux of it right now because Mary's going to put you on the spot. This is it. This is the one. First of all, Mary wants you to know, great webinar, and I would have to agree with her.
Thank you.
She wants to know specifically, what is the formula on this graphic with unique visitors, searches, inventory views, page views, and the number of auto leads? So what is the formula she should be using? And then after that, what formula are you using to come up with your conversion ratio? So she just wants you to flatline it out for her. Just spell it out. Exactly.
Sure.
What is the formulas? Give her the formulas.
Okay. Well, we'll see. I'll see if we can walk it through. Knowing what our metrics are, the formula should be, and this is where we see a equal to or greater than scenario. So we want to look at our total traffic. We want our vehicle searches to be at least 2x of our traffic. 3x or 4x is great, but it needs to be at least 2x of our total traffic. So this number should be twice as high. We want our inventory views. A lot of this has to do with how many cars you have in stock. But typically, we want to see a 4-to-1 or 5-to-1 ratio of inventory views to searches. So if they're looking for a Chevy Volt, and they got down to the Chevy Volt search results, they want to look at an average of 4 inventory views. In this case, we're getting, 7 times 7, 8 times. We're getting about 8 inventory views per search, which is excellent. That's a very high number. Typically, you want that to be about 4 times this number. So this number should be double your users. This number should be 4 times your searches. And there should be just a small gap between here. I don't have a number for you, but once you see gaps like 26,000 and 148, this is a huge problem. I could double my leads if I just got rid of a bunch of pages. This is where my problem is. Everything else works beautifully. So people are getting lost in the site and not in the inventory. So this is about the best scenario I've ever seen on a site performance level. Is page views are so close to inventory views.
It's effective.
This should be
it's strong all the way across, right?
That's right. So your inventory views should equal about 74% of your total page views, because we know that's the population. That's what people are coming there to find. So if we use that same standard, that same metric, we know that our inventory views should represent about 3/4 of our total page views. And then our leads, when we take our leads, turn around, go back to the beginning, divide our leads by total users, and that gives us our lead to visitor ratio. Now again, I didn't put lead to visitor ratio on here because it is what it is. The point is, don't focus just on lead to visitor ratio and try to change that number. Most people say, okay, I need more leads or I need more visitors because that's the ratio, and they focus on one or the other. The problem is within the lines, within the metrics, within these other metrics. You can't fix lead to visitor ratio by itself.
Okay, so in the case of the first green one, we already know it has great uniques, and then there's something wrong with the home page, and the searches drop. But from only 6,400 searches, their inventory is like 20 times more than that. Maybe not 20,
right.
Maybe 18, but still, that's a lot. It's a huge difference. So is that because their inventory is strong, their VDPs are strong, they have a lot of inventory?
It's typically this based on the amount of traffic the site is getting, which is a huge amount. This is based on them having a huge amount, a huge inventory to sell. 14,000 visitors. The average unique visitors to a dealership website today is right about 4,000. So 14,000 is in the upper 10% of dealership traffic. So they have huge amount of inventory, which is even more bothersome because if I had even 50% more searches, I could increase my lead output tremendously. But here it could be where, yes, the inventory is huge. You have to back out of a car to get to another car. In other words, you don't have suggested vehicles or recommended vehicles at the bottom of your VDP pages. It could be many reasons for this, but you're right. There's a huge gap here. At least they are getting a lot of inventory views, but that might not necessarily be a good thing because I'm just not getting the leads out of those views.
Okay, so Dr. Ezell, what we're seeing with that particular dealership is they have a weak homepage. They have a ton of inventory. They don't have too many more pages on their website, but they could probably pare it down a little, right? But they're still
they have almost 20. Yes.
I was going to say they still have a lack of leads, even from having so many inventory views and so many unique users. So is that because, could that be from the way that they're pricing their vehicles, or could it be just, poor VDPs, or what do you think it is?
Well, it could be a lot of things, but what we want to look at is of the unique users we have. We only had 6,000 searches. So when we look at the 6,000, regardless of our inventory views, we only had 6,000 people looking at cars. Therefore, we only have the opportunity to get leads from this number of people, not from this number of inventory views.
Right.
So this is still, the search is still a number for people who got past the home page who engaged in vehicle search. So this is still a people number. It's 5,400. This is a page number, and then this is a lead number. So we're not going to get many more leads out of 6,400 active shoppers, even if they're viewing a whole bunch of inventory. It's still that one person and one lead. This is still our main point of concern, is we don't have near enough shoppers performing searches. And we do have almost twice as many page views as we do inventory views. 179,000 page views. Now, for that amount of traffic, that's a lot. But when you look at your page views per shopper, per unique user, that number's going to be way too high.
Right.
And your inventory is going to represent half that.
This is just so fascinating to me. Audience, I hope you agree that the numbers tell more of a story than maybe you thought it did before you came into this webinar. So, Jason, with that, that was our last question. I want to thank Mary and the rest of our amazing audience today for their very insightful, wonderful questions. We really appreciate it. Jason, do you want to say anything else to the audience?
You know, I love the opportunity. I love the education. This is all independent information you can use for whatever purposes. Any website provider can help you with these items. I just wanted to bring some insight and some power back to the dealer to manage their own performance, to know how to talk to their vendors and what metrics to use to say, here's where I need your help, as opposed to being told what to do. You can find out for yourself, and you need to be empowered to do so, and that's what we like to do.
I agree. And like I said, if anyone would like a copy of the PDF version of this slide deck, please email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com. I'll get that out to you later today, I hope. All right. Great job. Very informative. I agree, Ron. He did a wonderful job. And you know what? We're going to be sending out a survey. So I would really appreciate it if you guys would wait around for another couple minutes. When I close out this webinar, that survey is going to be generated. It's going to come right to you. Please fill it out. We want to know what you thought about today's webinar, and if you thought it was a great use of your time, and what you thought about Jason Zell as a presenter. Please fill it out. We're always looking for great feedback, and we're going to randomly select a couple of people from all those completed surveys to also win some Google prizes. So another chance for you to win something, all right? Jason, thank you again. I want to tell the audience, too, we're going to be posting this webinar online at dealeron.com, and I'm going to be sending you the link to the recording as well in just a couple of hours, so watch out for that. And by the way, invitations will be going out tomorrow for our next webinar, and you guys have been asking for it, so I want to see a lot of you signing up for this. Jason, if you wouldn't mind going to that last slide, it is how to write great emails that get responses and drive results. Oh my gosh, I can't tell you how many people have asked me for a webinar on how to send out great emails. Well, we want to know, how effective do you think your emails are at triggering a customer's response? Well, if you're like most dealerships, the answer to that question is probably not very. As a matter of fact, studies show that 82% of people won't even open a message from a sender that they know if they think that the information is not relevant. Well, Justin Brunn and Ben Kohler, they are the email experts. They know how to make awesome emails that get opened, read, and responded to in a way that puts more money in your pocket. And they're ready to share their valuable techniques with you. In this thrilling one-hour webinar, they're going to discuss proven strategies, best practices, and real examples implemented at their own dealership, Acton Toyota of Littleton. And they'll also provide attendees with a number of actionable takeaways for various email marketing initiatives. So if you're ready to discover how to compose better emails that trigger customer response and drive results, well, you just can't miss this important presentation. So don't forget, Dealeron's weekly webinars are held on Thursdays, 12 noon Eastern, 11 a.m. Central, 10 a.m. Mountain, and 9 a.m. Pacific. And we have some amazing webinar subjects planned for this year. But if you have any questions, comments, or suggestions regarding these webinars and our topics, hey, I'm here. Please contact me directly. I love hearing from you. Again, I'm Eliana Raggio. You can email me directly at eliana@dealeron.com, and you can also find me all over the web. I'm on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Google+, and all the automotive social networks, so track me down online. Thank you all so very much for spending this time with us today, and I hope to see you all on a future webinar in our continuing education series. Take care.